Hey guys, Mike Frontera here, back with another retirement theory video. So, let's talk annuities.
Hey, who wants to have some fun?
They're one of the most misunderstood products in all of retirement planning. So unique in what they can offer, yet subject to so much hate. A lot of it is deserved, by the way. So today I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the reality about annuities. So buckle up. By the time this video is over, you're going to know more than 90% of the folks out there about annuities, which is not only going to be super valuable for your retirement planning, it's also going to make you a hit at your next cocktail party. So what is an annuity anyway? So let's start with a little bit of history. The word annuity comes from the Latin word annua, meaning yearly. So back in the Roman days, people would give a lump sum of money to the state in exchange for a lifetime series of payments. It was a simple way to create income that could not be outlived. And that's really what an annuity is, taking a lump sum of money and converting it into an income stream that lasts for a lifetime. Think of it like buying your own pension. And today, of course, annuities are issued by insurance companies. And in the purest form, work basically the same way. You send insurance company XYZ $100,000 or whatever sum of money, and about a month later, you start receiving a monthly paycheck that lasts as long as you're around to cash it. Now, that is what's known as an immediate annuity because payments start immediately. But interestingly, even though immediate annuities are the purest form of what an annuity is, they actually make up a really small portion of annuities that are sold today. Only about 3% of total annuity sales are immediate annuities, according to LIMRA research. So we have these immediate annuities off on one branch, and then the other branch then would be called deferred annuities. And this is the vast majority of annuities that you're going to encounter. And deferred basically means you're going to keep that lump sum of money, that deposit, in its own account and defer the conversion into a lifetime stream of income. And so while it's deferred and it's sitting in this account, the money can grow in one of a bunch of different ways. So you might hear terms like a variable annuity or an indexed annuity, fixed annuity, or a registered index linked annuity or a RILA. And these are all just basically describing the different ways in which the money inside that deferred annuity can grow. Now, this growth happens all while the annuity is in this deferred status. And once you're done deferring, you can convert that sum of money into that lifetime income stream that I was talking about. And that's called annuitizing your contract. And at that point, your account value is gone. That lump sum has vanished, and in its place, you have this pension-like stream of income. And frankly, a lot of people don't really like that. It feels very permanent, and people don't like that loss of money or that perceived loss of value. And so most annuity contracts are actually never formally annuitized. But, and this is an important point, that does not mean that people are not using annuities for income. In fact, it's quite the opposite. A lot of retirees want income that they can't outlive, and you can do so nowadays within an annuity without having to make that scary step of having the account value vanish completely. And so how this is done is that deferred annuities can provide lifetime income through what are called income or withdrawal riders. More on that in a bit. So with that as a good backdrop, let's talk about what annuities do well. One of the biggest challenges in retirement planning is the fact that we don't know, with few exceptions, how long we're going to live. We've got this big chunk of money saved, and we don't know how long we need it to last. And of course, these days, most people don't have a big pension check coming in. And if you've read your Social Security estimate lately, they keep ringing the alarm bells that the Social Security Trust Fund is running out of money in 10 years or less. So not running out of money is understandably really high on a lot of people's priority list when planning for retirement. And the annuity is designed to fit that need perfectly. They're the only financial product that can guarantee you that you will never run out of your withdrawals for as long as you live. Now, insurance companies are the ones who back that guarantee, and they're the ones who provide it. So how do they do it? They do it by using their massive size and by using something called the law of large numbers. See, you only have one life to worry about, and there's just so much variability in how long that life will last. But when you take tens or hundreds of thousands of lives into account, you can predict with a surprising amount of accuracy how long people will live on average. You can then use that average to determine how much to pay everybody. The insurance company knows then that some people are going to live much less than that average and get a lot less money. Some people, on the other hand, are going to live a lot more than that average and get more money. And this, by the way, points to a huge advantage that annuities have. That is, the longer you live, the more money you're going to get. In other words, you benefit by having a longer than average life. And this is a financial term called mortality credits. You know, and intuitively, within your own retirement portfolio, the longer you live, the more money you end up spending. And so if you expect that you may live a long life, you have to plan for that by saving extra money. Well, annuities basically solve for that longevity risk. So I want you to take a minute and think about that. Think about the meaningful protection and the other applications that you can have with the rest of your portfolio if you know that that longevity risk is solved. I'll give you a couple examples. So let's assume that you had an annuity that would cover all of your expenses once you hit age 80. Well, now you know that you only have to have the rest of your money last to age 79. You've just solved the how long do I need my money to last problem. Or how about this? Let's say between your Social Security and a lifetime withdrawal from an annuity, you've got all of your have-to-have basic essential expenses covered. Wouldn't that give you the permission slip to maybe spend with a little less guilt on the rest of your portfolio? Or maybe because you have a lot of those basic expenses covered, maybe you don't have to invest your portfolio so conservatively because you know worst case you've got this base of income coming in. So annuities can be an extremely powerful planning tool that can impact your plan beyond just their direct function. So far these annuities sound pretty great. So what's Ken Fisher all bent out of shape about? All right, let's talk about the bad. And let me just take a moment to talk about something that would fit into both the good and bad categories, and that is taxes. Annuities are in themselves tax deferred, meaning if you put a lump sum of after-tax money in an annuity, you are not taxed on that growth until you take money out. You can also trade within the annuity as much as you want without creating a tax bill. That's a good thing. On the flip side, annuities do not get capital gains treatment, which is that lower tax rate that we're looking for within an after-tax investment. Instead, all of the growth comes out on a last in, first out basis, meaning you first pull out all of the growth before you start pulling out your principal, and it's all taxed at ordinary income rates. That's not good. The other thing that's not great about annuities in an after-tax investment is they are not eligible for a step-up in cost basis like a traditional after-tax investment account is. In fact, they are also subject to required minimum distributions for the beneficiaries of that annuity account. That's not good. And annuities are subject to the same 59.5 age restrictions that an IRA is. So if you put in money from an after-tax basis when you're 40 years old, you'll have to wait 19.5 years before you can take any of the growth out without having that 10% penalty. Certain exceptions apply there, but by and large, you have to wait. Now, a note on that, if you have an annuity inside an IRA or a Roth IRA, those IRA and Roth IRA rules will trump the tax rules on the annuity. First up, Liquidity. We talked about this earlier, but if you buy an immediate annuity, you have no liquidity. You give an insurance company a lump sum of money and you've basically exchanged it for a monthly paycheck. That's it. There's no undo button. There's no emergency withdrawals, no access to that money whatsoever. When you buy an immediate annuity, that principal is gone. And so with deferred annuities, you do typically have access to your lump sum deposit, but there are a lot of restrictions. Most contracts will allow for some small free withdrawal percentage, 5% interest, 10% without paying a penalty, but anything in excess of that will typically be subject to steep penalties and surrender charges. And those can go on for years. Now, to be fair, a lot of people will buy an annuity strictly for their unique accumulation features, and they don't care very much at all about liquidity during their surrender charge period. And in fact, particularly on the fixed deferred annuity side, there can be very attractive and competitive interest rates that you may not easily be able to duplicate outside of the annuity world. You need to remember that these large insurance companies often have much better purchasing power than you do as a retail investor. And so they can get much better pricing on the bonds that they put in their general fund portfolio versus the bonds in yours. And that can help them get rates that you can't get. Okay, but the bottom line is that annuities are not cash accounts. They almost always have some kind of restriction or limitation that you need to understand before moving ahead. Oh, speaking of understanding, that's another problem with annuities. They are extremely hard to understand. When you're buying an annuity for accumulation purposes, you might see terms like participation rates or caps or spreads or floors or buffers. How you actually gain interest in an annuity might be a formula that looks like it's out of a calculus textbook. And for those using an annuity for their lifetime income or withdrawal benefits, it can be even more complex. These lifetime benefits often deal with things like a benefit base, roll-up values, step-ups, and really harsh rules about what happens when you take out more than your annual allotment of income. And that isn't to say that these annuities don't have value. They absolutely can and do. But you need to understand how the annuity that you're getting works, and whenever possible, try to get it with as few moving parts as possible. Now, another issue that annuities have is inflation risk. Most immediate annuity payments come as a flat dollar amount each year, as do most deferred annuity withdrawal and income rider benefits. Some annuities do have inflation adjustments with the income, but those typically start at a way lower starting level of income. And virtually none of them are actually tied to a real inflation rate like CPI, the Consumer Price Index. Instead, they're given some sort of flat, like a 2 or 3% annual increase each year. So yes, you're solving the longevity problem. You're not going to run out of money, but you may be creating an inflation problem. You know, that $2,000 a month at age 65 might be great, but by the time you're 85, it's worth way, way less to you in terms of purchasing power. So when you're planning out your retirement, you need to be aware of that your annuity withdrawal benefit or income payment is likely not going to keep up with inflation. And probably one of the biggest issues that I see with annuities is something that I call FAIR. That stands for fees and investment restrictions. So insurance companies aren't dumb. They're in the business to make money. And they're actually really good at it. So you need to remember something. When you buy an annuity, especially one where you are trying to protect lifetime income, you're buying insurance. You're buying insurance that you don't run out of money out of your portfolio. You could call it portfolio insurance or longevity insurance, but it is insurance. And that means you're paying for it. So to put it another way, if you had the exact same investment outside of an annuity versus one that's inside, you are almost certainly going to do better with the one that's outside because it's going to be so much cheaper. Because within that one, you are taking on the portfolio and the longevity risk instead of paying an insurance company to do that for you. You know, there's an old saying, Wall Street doesn't owe you a retirement. And that's true. There is nothing to prevent a big market crash from permanently and severely reducing your portfolio. Okay, so the insurance company is willing to bear some of that risk for you. And that has real value for a lot of people. But it's not free. So here's a simple hypothetical example for a deferred annuity with a lifetime withdrawal rider. Let's say that you buy an annuity for $100,000 and it has a 3% annual fee. And let's assume that your investment doesn't actually grow at all inside the annuity. And let's say that your lifetime withdrawal is based on 5% of your initial deposit, or premium as they call it. Each year, you're going to get $5,000 and the insurance company is going to get $3,000. Now, your $5,000 annual withdrawal, even though it's covered for life, that $5,000 is just coming out of the $100,000 that you gave the insurance company until you run out of money. It's only when you run out of money that the insurance company has to start forking over their own $5,000. And again, the insurance company knows about on average how long people are going to live, and they price and give benefits based on those averages. So as you might expect, the insurance company is hoping to collect the most amount of money in fees and pay out the least amount of money in benefits. And of course, you make out best when the opposite is true. That is, you live a very long time. And even better, you buy an annuity that's invested, and maybe you happen to time it where the market takes a big drop right when you start taking money. Maybe you retire into a year like 2008. And now, whereas you would have run out of money very early on in retirement, you still have your withdrawals covered as long as you live by the insurance company. But again, the insurance company aren't fools. Many, although not every, but many will restrict how aggressively that you can invest inside their annuity contracts. This helps protect your balance, which is often how it's phrased, but really it's protecting them from having to pay out their own money when they run out of your portfolio. You know, the insurance company risks paying out that income for the rest of your life, so naturally they want to restrict how aggressive you can get and how much risk you can take with the money that they're holding on to. All right, let's sum this thing up. What's the reality? Are annuities bad? Are they good? Well, the answer is really neither. Annuities are tools, and they are designed for a very specific problem. And if you have that problem, annuities are in a very unique position to solve it. But if it's solving a problem that you don't have, you're likely wasting a lot of money. Remember, no investment, not stocks or bonds or real estate, can guarantee income for life. Annuities can, because they pool longevity risk to make it predictable. If your biggest fear in retirement is running out of money, especially if you don't have a pension or you're worried about Social Security, an annuity can actually be a very prudent part of your plan. But to get that protection, you're going to pay for it. You're also going to give up liquidity, flexibility, and likely some investment control. So understand what you're getting. If you don't understand it, keep looking. Remember to think of the annuity as a tool, first and foremost. A tool that has a very specific function. And by the way, if the person who's recommending an annuity to you only makes money by selling annuities, guess what tool they're going to reach for? As the saying goes, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If your situation calls for lifetime income protection or perhaps a conservative way to make money, an annuity could be the right solution. Otherwise, there are likely better options to pursue. So, do you have questions for me? Come visit me at www.retirementtheory.com or send me an email at mike@retirementtheory.com. Once again, thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.